All right, welcome to Woman Crush Every Day, where we review queer media, especially when it's Black, especially when it's woman. And I am Tang.
I'm Al Wu.
And we have a very special guest on the show with us today. We have Cole Lawson, who plays Femme on QUEERious.
Yeah, we reviewed QUEERious a couple of episodes ago, and it was so great. We reached out to some folks, and thank you so much, Cole.
No problem. Thank you guys for reaching out.
Yeah, we had a blast watching the series. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I think we want to start with, how did you get involved with the show?
Wow. So I met Lex a while back. We had like some mutual friends, but had never ran into each other because I was in the military. So I traveled a bit, and then I came back to LA. And then when I came back, I was at a pool party, of course. And I happened to see her there at a pool party. And then from there, we kind of just kept in touch. And then she had this script that she came up with, and she thought I would be good for the role. So she reached out to me.
Awesome. And then how do you feel like you identified with the character? What was your first impression of Sam?
I thought, like, hold on, my dog's being crazy. Right now? Seriously? Jesus. Okay. But at first, when I read the script, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, damn, Sam kind of messy, bro. Like, she's messy for real. But then when I read he's for real right now. Hold up.
Attention, like, show me some
Come on. Come on. Of all the times. Not right now. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know, join if you want. You know, we don't mind. We don't discriminate.
Come on.
Actually, this is Coda.
Yes, his name is Coda.
Super cute.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, this is the cutest.
He literally just likes to cuddle all day long.
That's
kind of like your dog. Yeah,
except my dog is like 3 times that size, and he wants to
really. And see, he's like on the cusp of like an Aries Pisces, so he's like aggressively affectionate.
I think that's me.
You know, I never thought about that with dogs. I never thought about like astrological signs with other living animals, and that's mind blown. But I feel like we have to get into that at some point, because you know, we were like doing our research. I'm like, oh man, she like next level with it, you know. This conversation, I think that's amazing, actually. Yeah, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so speaking of that, so like me and Sam's character pretty much aligned really perfectly, because she was kind of like this spiritual, just free-flowing person. And then a lot of the same things that Sam has gone through are like things that I've gone through, so to speak. So I really related to the character. So when I first read it, I was like, wow, this is dope, because I don't really feel like I have to change myself too much, because I never acted before. This was my first time acting in anything. So I was like, it's cool to be able to act as myself, to kind of just like get my feet wet. But yeah.
Awesome. So as we're watching the show, I noticed Sam's character was offering some practices for her to do in the relationship that she was in, and then also was encouraging people to seek therapy. What did you think about having a character that does that on a web series?
I thought it was dope, because I feel like I play that role in my everyday life. So it's nice to see that normalized, especially in our community. I feel like we don't encourage each other enough sometimes to have healthier relationships. A lot of our relationships are very codependent, and they're very dependent on like attachments and possession, rather than really getting to experience and learn people, and having a lot of flow in your relationships. If anyone's seen the show, like kind of later on down the line, when my best friend came that also happened to be my ex, you know, I feel like those are conversations that we need to talk about. Why is it so hard to have or maintain friendships when you figure out that you grow apart from someone?
Oh my gosh, let me tell you. You know, since we're talking about women, women crushes, you know, that's
aren't we always?
That is a super huge problem. I feel like in terms of like building community in lesbian spaces. And like once relationships dissolve, it's kind of like the community is often affected. So I don't know, go ahead. Yeah. I would say
I think it's often because like a lot of the times we are so like we haven't spent enough time being okay with being alone and working on our platonic friendships that we don't really even understand what it means to be in a relationship and love someone unconditionally, because we don't even do it in our friendships. Like we'll flake on our friends for a relationship even though our friend has been there through all 18 of our relationships. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we tend to just try to attach to people, and because of that we don't give ourselves a chance to really see, will this work as a relationship or are we better as friends? Because I feel like it's a lot easier to have a friend and disagree with a friend than be in a relationship with someone you're not supposed to be with.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's hard too when you try to build community off of attraction rather than shared values. Like when you have couples who come together and they form a community and that romantic bond ends and they haven't actually figured out why they value each other's space.
Absolutely. And we don't talk about it because we're right here, you know, since we're already here, I'm just going to bring it up about the fact of like, sometimes I feel like we move really quickly through the dating process and we don't really allow ourselves to get to know one another. And then during this getting to know one another process, we do a lot of trauma bonding instead of working towards building a friendship. And what I mean by that is I see in a lot of like the beginning stages of relationships, people ask a lot of questions about the ex and all those things. And subconsciously what's happening is they're asking questions about the ex and then forming their self to be this complete opposite, which also who isn't them. And then the relationship crumbles because they've put up this show because everyone's trying to be what their ex wasn't.
Yeah.
Wow. That trauma bonding, that's something people need to sit with, meditate on that, you know, and not building those relationships based on, I mean, that's in a way, it's like, that's cool because to meet somebody who's has a similar experience or something like that, you know,
it can feel affirming.
It can feel affirming, but I think just continuing the cycle, perpetuating the cycle as opposed to like, you know, what are the positives that we can bond over? How do we make that create new space?
Or even allowing ourselves enough space after relationships to actually heal and prepare for a new relationship rather than just hopping from one to another to another to another.
Absolutely. So that brings up that you actually do your own healing practice. So can you talk about the different services that you offer and like what communities do you serve?
Absolutely. I serve Black and people of color first and foremost, but I do serve all human beings. I'm here for everybody, but I'm especially here for the culture, here for the people. But I will say that I am an all-around healer. I am a herbalist and a life coach and a personal chef. So I do a lot of my healing through food, but I do breath work and I'm in yoga teacher training right now. But mainly I've been a life coach for the last 3.5 years. And before that, I was a lab tech in the Navy for 4.5 years as well. And I've kind of traveled a bit and came back. But right now I'm currently working on a cookbook. I wrote a poetry book a couple years ago that I put out because I've competed nationally for poetry.
Hey.
Yeah, we got a poet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just that. And then also, as I'm in the current stages of building my business, I have been sitting down more, especially during this time, and really figuring out where the integrity of that lies. Because I feel like even as people of color, Black people alike, when we are building our businesses, even though they're Black owned, we don't always take the extra initiative to make sure that we are sourcing our products properly. And a lot of the time it's just like, we want to get out of the mud. We want to make money. We want to do these things. But in the process, I'm starting to ask myself the same questions I'm asking these white people to ask themselves in their companies. You know, like, what does my board look like? Where are my products being sourced from? What initiatives am I taking in my profits off bat to give back? Why, you know, do I need to wait for something to happen to be a part of, you know, an impact? So I've been slowing down a lot more and figuring out what all of this world actually means in my life right now, especially being a gay woman of color. You know, I think we are some of the most revolutionary people to ever walk the earth.
Amen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you identify as a gay woman, or what kind of encompasses the communities that you feel like you belong to as far as LGBTQA plus?
Personally, I feel like I belong to the entire community. I wouldn't label myself. If I had to label myself as anything, I would say fluid. I feel like I carry a very equal balance of both masculine and feminine, and I feel like I'm in the process of mastering when each of those things need to be brought forth. So I think that I can love anyone. Yeah, and I feel like I'm a part of the entire community, and I don't ostracize myself or even compartmentalize myself within the community. Like, oh, I'm just lesbian or just that. Because, you know, since more trans people are coming out now and stuff, I've gotten a lot of questions like, oh, would you date a trans person? And I think that's a silly question because I would, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're all a part of the same community. So, yeah.
Absolutely. How do you think that's like shaped your experiences in the world? You've been in the military, you've been in the food world, and I know that those are usually straight male dominated spaces. What has your experience been like?
I think fortunately for me, I've had a very dominant personality because I've endured a lot of challenges very early on in my life. And I think when you have a lot of challenges early on, you have one of two choices to make. One is kind of like shrivel and shrink. And the other one is you become very headstrong and very independent. And I think I took that route. So although I've been in a lot of male dominated spaces, I've always made sure that when I came in a room, everyone felt my presence. I never shrink when I come in a room. So if I come in a room, you're going to feel me, whether you're male, female, cat, dog, whatever the case may be. And I've kind of carried that with me throughout time. So I think that I've changed a lot of people's ideas in mind about what a gay person is or what this community is about. And for that, I think I'm proud, you know, to know that I've maintained my integrity to that point to where people can look at the entire community differently.
Yeah. So you're in California. Did you grow up there? Are you from there, just native the whole time, or tell us about?
I was born and raised in South Central. Okay. Yes, I was born and raised in South Central, and then I moved to Seattle when I was about 16, and then I joined the military after I graduated high school when I was 17, and then I went to Chicago. I've lived in Texas. I've lived in San Diego, back to Seattle. Yeah.
You got a favorite?
Huh?
Have a favorite place?
A favorite place? California, always.
I
love, you know what? It's the weather, to be honest, because I've lived in other places, and let me tell you here, the cold, the snow, that shit ain't for me. That's out.
I don't know who it's for. It's not for me.
Yeah, we're in the wrong place.
And y'all, I moved out there because I thought I fell in love. And then next thing I know, I'm fucking single, shoveling snow off my goddamn car.
See, even love can't keep you warm.
That's out.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh, that's a hard reality.
It really is. Yeah,
if somebody was, man, going from having anybody do like something like clean off your car for you when it's snow, and then to have the absence of that, that's not even fair. Like there should be like a plan to like wean you off of that kind of thing.
Phase into doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, that's cool. So in terms of like media and other things of the queer related media, what are some shows that you have seen that you've enjoyed, or some other things that you're looking out for? And I mean, you're being out on the West, I know, you know, just folks who are creators, you know, who create media. So what do you like? What's out there, and what are you looking forward to? Or what have you seen that you already like that maybe some of our viewers haven't seen? And
I have a lot of unpopular opinions.
Hey, that's all right.
That's okay.
You do. Look, I ain't gonna hold nobody, but I'm gonna always keep it a buck, all right? Because I appreciate everybody's talent. I appreciate everybody's art. However, some of these shows I see are very cringeworthy. Okay, and not on an aspect of like even their recording or the quality or the audio, because I've watched some very shit quality stuff on YouTube and still been into it. Okay. So it had nothing to do with like the quality and people not being able to start with what they have. That's not it. I think it's cringeworthy because of the type of things that they choose to highlight. And that's why I was so in love with the script that Lex wrote and her work, because she didn't highlight us as people that are just like these I would say sex symbols, but for them, it almost seems like a fetishized sex symbol. You know what I'm saying? Like everyone's just so curious about our sex life when our life is so much bigger than just sex. And they, quite frankly, don't ever get the fucking sex part right anyways. So I think for a lot of these shows that I've seen, it's just, what was the one that I watched? What was it? Lipstick? I didn't get too far through it. Is Lipstick, is that the one? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Lipstick is one. And
okay, so Lipstick is one.
Yeah.
I thought it was okay. I actually thought it was really well, and there's some parts in it, but I do think there's a lot of parts in there where I'm just like, why does this have to, why are we at the sex store? Why are we throwing the dildos around? Why are we like, come on, bro.
I haven't seen
How old are we?
I haven't, so I'll have to check it out, because I feel like y'all now have this like inside. I'm like, I don't know. I don't
You gotta
know.
watch it. But one show that I actually did enjoy that I watched not recently, it was like years ago. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's called Between Women.
Yes. Yes.
I really liked Between Women. I thought it had a lot of drama and all that stuff, but I thought the script was well for like not seeing lesbians, and it showed them just having a normal life. You know, like sex wasn't too highlighted in the show. It was just like a lot of different dynamics of the women. It was quite dramatic though, but
very dramatic. But I do think like it was one of the first web series out that featured queer women that was like of a pretty decent quality. You know, I mean, I think they really did do their thing. And so even though it was super dramatic, and even though I'm like, oh, do we have to have another like domestic violence story with a woman and a feminine woman? But I do think they had really intriguing characters that made me keep coming back season after season. And once they started charging, I was like, bitch, it's on. I'm so happy for y'all.
I paid too. I ain't gonna even hold y'all. I paid for it. Okay.
Me too.
I was all into it. What else have I seen? I haven't watched Studs LA, but I did go to the premiere of the Real Femmes LA or Real Femmes of LA. I'm sorry if I'm getting that wrong.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, you know, it's pretty well put together. I like the concept. It does give me kind of like more reality, but not necessarily in a bad way, because I feel like there does need to be representation in, you know, in the LGBTQIA community of just reality series. So that's something I'm also trying to be very cognizant of, is just because I don't agree don't mean that the representation isn't needed.
Absolutely.
I would just say I would like to see a wide array of things, you know. I don't want us to keep having these very marginalized reputations, because a lot of us are very smart, very educated, very successful, you know, human beings that aren't limited to just our sexual capabilities or even our sexual preferences.
Absolutely.
I'm curious about your perspective on the queer scene on the West Coast, and especially like as it relates to Black women and just as it relates to Black women.
On the West Coast, I feel like the queer scene, it's very free. It's very free flowing, especially from what I've experienced. I guess not so much on the East because I haven't been there, but in the more central and southern areas, I would say the West Coast has been the freest place I've seen as far as just everything, and being able to experience every type of person, be it non-binary, be it fluid, be it pansexual, homosexual, you know, all of those things I've been able to come encounter with here being on the West Coast. So I would say you get a very diverse group. However, in diversity, I feel like it also raises a lot of questions, even for me. And I'm not afraid to say it because I'm a part of the community. It starts to make me wonder, you know, we get so many different compartments of the LGBTQIA community that I feel like a lot of the time it stops our healing process, because everyone's so focused on being approved and having a label and having a title on who they want to be. And it starts to make me wonder, like, is your title for you or is it for me?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the only thing that worries me as far as what I've seen on the West Coast, is that there is so much diversity, but also in that diversity, it makes me question, is it furthermore just separating everyone? You know, because we could break it all the way down into minute sections of exactly what everyone likes. But at the end of the day, it's like, why do we need a label to be able to just do whatever it is we want to do? Because also in having a label, I feel like it kind of tells people that they don't have the option to change their mind. And that's not true. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can, I know a lot, we don't like to talk about it in the LGBT community, because we even have qualms with like bisexual people or whatever the case may be. But the truth is, it's your life. I mean, if you wake up and you decide that you want to do something different, you can decide that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely some of the labels have become more about like creating an army out of the community than like being who you are. I think you're spot on and just pointing that out. And I wonder also, what are the psychological effects of saying like, I'm a part of this, I'm this label, and I can use it as like political power, but also the psychological trauma that it's going to cost me when I start identifying with
something else.
With
if I
something
feel like
else.
something, if I change, you know, if I
change, like, because then you have to start dealing with your ego, because your ego is who you've constructed, you know, your sense of I, who you've constructed yourself to be, your poker face, so to speak. And it's not easy for a lot of people to diminish their poker face, even when their soul is calling for something different, you know, because we've kind of masked ourselves to be this for so long.
Absolutely.
So I think it's always important to remember to remain fluid, and that love, if anything, being a part of the LGBTQIA community should be the biggest reminder that love should remain fluid.
Mm-hmm.
Spit.
Absolutely.
What? Y'all need to go to her website. What's your website? Let them know. Just say it right quick.
You can find me on Instagram right now at I am Cole Lawson, EYEAMCOLELAWSON. I'm currently getting my website worked on because I have some new products dropping very soon.
Awesome. Also, if y'all look at her Instagram, it's gonna make you hungry. Like,
wait, is this the same person? What is this? She's cooking her ass off. What? That looks great. I'm like, this looks amazing. Oh my gosh, you're killing it. One of those, like, just keep scrolling. Just
keep scrolling. Keep just filling the stomach, like ready for anything.
I'll do that.
What are some things that you think maybe we as a people could be eating right now that's going to make us feel good?
Right now, I would definitely say that everyone needs to work on like root chakra healing. So you're going to want to eat like a lot of root vegetables. So anything that's coming particularly out of the ground or that's red. So you like your red apples, your beets, you want to eat your carrots, your potatoes, all of those things. And of course, leafy greens always. And if you know my cooking page is called Heart Roots, and that is my business line is Heart Roots Kitchen. But that's basically the two chakras that I would say everyone needs to work on right now, is our sense of grounding and being here, our sense of security within ourselves and our communities and what we bring to the table and what we have to offer, and then our hearts and how open we are to receiving and giving love during this tumultuous time that we're dealing with all these things, not just for as us Black people, but as Black gay people especially, you know, because I feel like, you know, as quiet as it's kept, the revolution doesn't end until we're completely free.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Have there been any demonstrations you've participated in? I know New York just had a Black queer celebration that was like specifically celebrating queer people of color. What's it been like on the West Coast?
On the West Coast, there's been protests every single day. So I have gone to some. I've gone to a couple. I just recently went to a Pride one, maybe like 2 weeks ago. It was very nice. However, I will say that I have done a lot of protesting and marching back in my days, you know, like when I was 21, 22, 23, 24, especially when I was doing poetry. And what I've come to realize is that being out there hurt me a lot. It hurt my feelings. Especially, I know we try to like talk like feelings and all that, but my feelings was fucking hurt, and I ain't afraid to say it. Okay, and in that, it also made me realize that I think the type of revolution that I'm ready for, the type of revolution that my soul is calling for, I can't be out there for those protests because I will get myself killed.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel at this point. I feel enraged. I feel upset. I feel betrayed, you know, and I feel, quite honest, desperate in a way of that they don't understand anything else, and me trying to be human and me trying to be a bigger person is not it. So what I need to do is raise fucking hell and then ask forgiveness later.
Absolutely.
And so for me, I feel like I have to have all hands on deck from the back of the scenes for now and do what I can healing and protecting my brothers and sisters. And then when motherfuckers is ready to really blow some shit up, hit my line.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely the healing work, make sure people are well fed, well spiritually grounded is
absolutely
definitely necessary.
It makes all the difference.
Absolutely.
Making sure our immune systems are all taken care of.
Yes.
Because, you know, we are still in a whole, you know, just a war on our bodies as well.
Real.
Yeah. So I'm going to transition a little bit because we are Woman Crush every day. So we do talk about who our woman crush is. And so just thinking about who is your woman crush, and it could be of romantic interest, but it could also just be somebody who you think really does her thing or their thing, and you just want to uplift them.
Who is my woman crush? Wow. Let's see. Dang, y'all trying to out me. I'm not trying to out myself. Honestly, I would say right now, if I had a woman crush, dang, this is sad. I feel like I've been so like in my bag that I haven't really even been looking at anybody.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's good. That's good. You're your woman crush.
Yeah, I honestly, I feel like I am. Like if I had to choose anybody, and you know, I'm not even gonna like shrink or feel bad about it. Like I feel like at this moment in my life right now, I am my own woman crush. I feel like I've spent a lot of time in relationships and out of relationships and focused on the wrong things. And I feel like I'm finally at a point in my life to where I am the most mentally, physically, emotionally, financially stable that I've ever been. And to be here, just existing during this time in the world and to be the person that I am with the gifts that I have, I feel like that's a blessing. And I'm grateful to be myself. And I'm grateful, you know, that I have this life.
Absolutely. I think that's a great answer.
Yeah. That's honest. Just keep it 1,000.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I will say, you know, it's just a couple shorties out there that's looking mad fine right now, okay? Some people was in quarantine working on their bodies, okay? And I see it. I'm letting them know I see y'all.
So if you listening, you text right now.
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
So, is there anyone who is kind of in the LGBTQA community that you just feel like is really doing their thing? One of the things that we do on the show is how gay is it on the scale of Katy Perry to Janelle Monáe, pretty much fake gay to the realest of the reals. Who is somebody who you just feel like, you know what? Yeah, I need life to be that kind of gay.
I need life to be that kind of gay. Shit,
and maybe not all of life.
Look, honestly, and it's a lot of controversy going on right now, but shit, I'm trying to see what Jada hitting for. And I know we only heard rumors, but look, listen here. I need to download some wisdom.
There you go. I love it.
But as far as in the actual LGBTQIA community, I feel like honestly, Lex is doing her thing, man. Lex is doing her thing. And I'm not crashing because she got a girlfriend. Her girlfriend fine too. Okay, her girlfriend's fine. But honestly, both of them are part of the community, and they're both doing their thing. You know, And I'm really glad for her to be my friend. I'm really glad to know her, and I'm really glad to see and excited to see what she really brings to the table. Because a lot of the very well-known screenwriters that are a part of the LGBTQIA community, I haven't been very satisfied with their work or with their scripts or with what kind of roles they tend to cast us and our people into. So it's exciting to see someone that is really passionate about, bringing the most truth that they can to light in every aspect, even down to the picking of characters for QUEERious. Everyone was, for the most part, pretty true to their character, except Jazz. Okay, Jazz is real life lesbian. Real life lesbian. But other than that, like, for the most part, everyone, is very true to their story. Like, Drew is a trans man, and Drew's been my friend for 10 years. I knew Drew before he was Drew. So I think it's just really nice to see someone bringing a very real, raw dynamic to the table. But one that's not watered down with trying to be like number one in Hollywood. And not saying that she won't be, because I feel like she really will, but I feel like the intention right now is just giving. And when it's so pure like that, you can see that, you know what I'm saying? Rather than selling out for money.
Absolutely.
So, is there a season 2? Are you looking to get into more acting and being Sam and being the mental health guru of the series who's getting everybody right?
So as far as I know right now, as far as we talked about, there is a season 2 coming. We're just working on trying to get a budget of some sort. A lot of people don't know, but if you've watched, like, we had one camera person. This is one camera crew, one director, and all of us, and we did this for free. Like, we didn't make, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it was a lot, but we definitely want to continue, but we also have to be realistic with ourselves, because it is something that can be very big and a lot bigger than ourselves. So we want to make sure we're doing it right. And a lot of us are very perfectionists, especially Lex. Okay, she's like a princess. So it definitely has to be, like, on point.
I think, go ahead. I think there's something to be said. I think even why we're doing this show is because there's like, we're at a place where there's enough content to be able to continue a conversation about queer women of color in media and making shows. So it's like folks like Lex and the whole cast and crew of QUEERious who, like, finding out how folks are actually putting these things together and seeing how we're part of a very long journey. Like, we're still in the baby stages, I think, of what all of this means, like Lex's career beyond just this show, and creating content that tells these stories, and, and we're seeing it all over the place. So,
absolutely
exciting to be at this Genesis stage, and I mean, and when I say Genesis, I mean, like, YouTube series, you know what I'm saying, folks? Telling these stories and using these platforms and doing it well. I mean, it's amazing to see. You said, like, this was one person on camera, like.
This was all Jess. One person that recorded, she edited, she did everything. Jess is freaking amazing, dude. She's so amazing, hands down. She's, like, legit. I don't know how, so many countless nights of her just being up editing, and I'm super grateful for her. Like, super grateful, because this was a lot of our first times, acting and being a part of this, but we all really made it work. And we're also really close friends and hang out and kick it, like, outside of QUEERious, and have actual real life conversations and know things about each other's lives and, everything like that. And I think this is a great opportunity for all of us. So I'm really glad that Lex brought us all together. I think it's really powerful, and I'm super excited to see where it goes from here. It's even gotten me wanting to act more. I didn't know I was going to, like, be that into it as much as I am, but now I'm like, okay, like, where's the audition at? Sign me up, boo.
Hey.
No, absolutely. And, you know, we, one of the things that we talk about often outside of here is roles for queer people and the expansion of that, because historically those roles don't really exist.
Or
so
when they do, they're written by people who don't really get
Right.
the essence of the experience and just kind of use it to tell somebody else's story, use it as a crutch for somebody else being the shine, rather than real authentic roles written by people who have experienced what we experience.
Yeah.
So to just be in the place where we're seeing more queer people actually be in charge of telling their stories and acting those stories and filling those roles. Like, we need queer actors to tell queer stories because we're here, we exist. So
Absolutely. So I guess my question to you guys is now is like, how do you feel about like some of these big name queer screenwriters and things that are in a position to write us into some of these better roles, and how well do you think that is being accomplished?
Where do you want to start?
I mean, in some ways, I think you have to start somewhere. And I think whenever there are communities who haven't traditionally been given a platform, the first parts of that platform usually are exploitive, and put us in a light where people get to shock and awe and, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to those people. And if we had only known, we would have treated them like humans all along. And unfortunately, though, the projects that seem to get the most funding behind them are things that are traumatic to our existence, or things that highlight the terrible things that happen to us, rather than the beautiful life that we also get to live because we choose to be open and be ourselves. And then at the same time, I think there are people who are out here doing a great job. You know, Lena Waithe's new show 20s, I think, is a really beautiful, wonderful story. And I think it's realistic and down to earth. And it's not about the main character necessarily being a masculine queer woman, but that's a true part of her story. And she gets to be the center, and she gets to also be a normal human being who isn't just here to like get beat up on screen to teach us a lesson about the world.
I'm going to say, I think there's still a lot left to be desired. But I think, kind of just speaking to the fact, I think we're still in this early phase of telling these stories. Kind of like I would compare it to when you first started seeing Black people in Hollywood and on TV screens. I mean, like, you see them shucking and jiving, you know, we see all these, like, what is at the end, and then to know also to be, you know, in 50 years out of it, 60 years, 70 years out of it, and to look back and be like, why would they do that? Like, what were they thinking in that moment when they decided to play this mammy? But then it's like, that was a representation for somebody that was like, if I can get on screen one way, how can I start to change that story? You know, if I can get on screen once, I can get on screen again. And I hate how slow things go. I think we all want the utopian experience, and I think we all feel like we deserve great lives and just really good lives. But I think some of the folks who came before us, and some of the folks who are still in power now, still feel like their hands are tied. I think have felt like their hands are tied. And I think, but what's happening right now with this COVID and this George Floyd, like, combo, I don't know. I really do think that more and more stories, like, we're going to, I just feel like there's more room to take those risks and say how you really feel and tell the stories that you really want to tell. And people will be able to, I mean, see that there's an audience for it too, you know? And it's not just folks, maybe businesses and investors who haven't wanted to put money into things before can see, like, no, queer communities and Black communities are putting their money where their mouth is. And yeah, I think we're still moving. So That's a real question. You know what I mean? That's a real question. And I think I could be nitpicky about some of the issues, but then I also feel like creating a space for representation and creating that space for us to critique the representation, to talk about like how this does impact community, to be able to talk to you and build community with you because of, you know, just we're in a place where you can grab a camera, you can grab some people, you can write the script, and you can get this story told to the world, you know? So I don't know if that answered it, but I feel like that's how I feel. Long, you know, long story long.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Shoot.
Well, one thing that I do think really fits into that is that, you know, the story that Lex wrote really did sustain some community and really allow some great stories to be told. And I think the more that we can actually highlight these new web series that are coming out, these new writers that are coming out, or people who have been writing but now have this wider stage to be able to showcase it from, the more we can highlight those things, the more power we give them, and the more we tell people who kind of have the dollars to really put strength behind it, that it's worth investing. So thanks for being a part of that process.
No problem. I think I'm looking for more people to stop tiptoeing and press boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that is one thing that Lex really showed me, like with her writing this script, is that she wasn't afraid to push that extra boundary and have some conversations that are really tough conversations to have in our community, you know, especially in the topic of exes or in the topic of questioning your sexuality when your partner decides they want to have a transition. What does that look like? You know what I'm saying? I think these are very important conversations that need to be brought up. But I also think that another thing is that sometimes a part of our community, we tend to feel attacked all the time when people don't understand our lifestyle. But as a queer Black woman who's been gay her entire life, there's so many things about the LGBTQIA community that I still don't understand. And I'm not afraid to say that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still learning. And I hope that my brothers and sisters offer me a little bit more grace when I'm asking for knowledge. But I think that in the same aspect, when we're looking at these TV shows and things like that, I think it's okay to say that they don't know everything. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it's imperative that we cast people for these roles that are actually living these lives so we can get an accurate depiction of what this looks like. This is a whole community of people that we don't understand, you know? And I know sometimes the dynamic in the conversation between all of us gets really tense because it's like everyone wants to be understood, but also I feel like we need to be open to offering people more grace in this understanding process, because even I don't get it all the time. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand all the terminology and all the different ways of life, but I'm trying, and I just want to be as respectful as I can be. But I definitely think in film and in television, it's imperative that people are casted for the roles that are very true to their lifestyles, you know, because we do have more than enough representation around the world for just about anything you want to write, you know. So I think giving people the opportunity to kind of live that out not only adds that extra realness to your show, but it gives you an opportunity to really learn and understand about the life versus that person. Like there's a couple different parts in Lexa's script that she ended up changing down the line to be more politically correct, you know, because when your awareness expands, you also expand, you know, the way that you integrate that awareness into your life. So I think that's very important for writers and actors alike to remember, and also for actors alike to remember to make way and not take up space in roles that are not for them.
Say that. Say that.
You know, in every aspect of your life is to not wait for someone to tell you like, oh, we're only looking for this type of person to cast. And I'm not saying like limit yourself for the opportunities you can take, but also when it comes to very specific roles, like the role of a trans person or you know, or something like that, like allow the person who's lived that experience to be a part of that. So that way, not only can they stand in their truth, but also so that way everyone can learn a little bit more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's so important. I think that's so important. And I think we really underestimate, too, the power of what people learn from media. I mean, we learn most of what we know about culture that exist outside of our house, from our televisions, from YouTube, from the series that we see. So it is really important to have authentically told and portrayed stories.
Like I was just watching, well, I've watched it before, but I was just rewatching it with a couple of my friends. But Pose was so well put together, so well written, so well casted, everything. And I felt like I learned so much even that I wasn't aware of. You know, from watching that. And not only that, but I got a little bit of insight into their emotional being, you know, because we typically tend to think that it's all about the physical, even the physical attraction to our sexual orientation, but we tend to negate like the different emotional processes that go on with different decisions that have to be made and things that are thought about via these people that live these different lifestyles.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what's so sad about, I mean, not what's so sad about it, but what's kind of enraging about Pose is how long ago that actual first script was written. And what if that show had been up, 10 years ago? What would our culture look like now? How would trans people be treated differently right now? If something like Pose had existed before, and then at the same time, I'm like, could we have trusted anybody in the early aughts to do this well? I don't know. I don't know that we could trust them.
Who knows? You gotta let the time to roll out and get into it and see what it is and just be present and thankful for now, I guess. And because now we are in a really, really cool time. So.
Yeah. So I only have one final question, unless you have something else.
While you were talking, it made me, this is kind of a little different, but I was curious about what you think about cancel culture. And I think just for one's own peace and safety, because I think sometimes folks will say, I need to cancel you to heal and all those things. And I think that can be real, but I guess to somebody who maybe talks to more folks and thinks about this concept, what do you think about cancel culture?
I think that it is okay to cancel people if that is what you feel like you need to do. The problem that I see in cancel culture is that many people are canceling people because they're challenging their egos, not necessarily because they really said something wrong or did something wrong. A lot of people's egos get challenged, and people don't like to feel less than, or they don't like to feel challenged. A lot of people don't like to expand their perspective beyond what they think they know. So in that, they feel like it's appropriate to cancel people. And by all means, that's why I said, if you want to cancel someone, that's your own choice, but you limit your own growth in cancel culture, because I think the way that life is supposed to flow, that ebb and flow, is learning how to coexist with people even when you don't agree, because everything isn't always about you. Their life journey, their life path isn't about you. And although they may have done this horrendous thing, or they have done something that pissed you off or something you completely don't agree with, you can choose to cancel them and walk away. But however, you never know what that purpose of that thing was. You know what I'm saying? Like, only God or source energy, or however you see fit, is the one that sees the whole picture. But in this day and age, I think that people are canceling a lot of people just because their egos are fragile. I think a lot of people's egos are fragile and they're canceling people. And a lot of people are very hurt right now, and hurt people. And we're in a day and age to where negative things are so easily accessible. I mean, positive things are easily accessible too, but we're constantly flooded with negative things all day long. And especially during this pandemic, it's been trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma. Cancel culture is becoming even bigger now, because if you only are looking at the negative all day long, you can only see the negative. So they're literally picking it out, reaching for it, searching for it. It's all their brain is seeing is negative. So a lot of this cancel culture right now is really stemming from another way that we are being oppressed. It's another way to get us to be more distant from one another. I think that it's playing on our mere vibration and the very energy that we bring into the world, because we need human connection, and everything that's been going on has been to get to dismantle that human connection that we feel, from the rise of technology to this whole pandemic, and then to this even furthermore separation via the race situation. So I think that cancel culture is increasing because of very fragile egos, and then people just not taking the time to heal.
Yeah.
Real spill.
Yeah.
Real spill.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's something that is so important in these times, and is trying to like continuing to fight on and fight the good fight. It is so important that we tap into ourselves and find out ways and to heal ourselves and continue to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think there's so many ways, like so much deeper we could go with that. But I do want to respect your time. I appreciate the time you've given us, and that we've had, I think, a really great conversation. One last note that I want to leave off on is, what was your favorite part of doing QUEERious? Do you have a favorite day of filming, or what's something great that's come out of it for you, a great memory or a great result of having been on the show?
I got some really great friends out of it. I will say that. A lot of me and the women are really great friends. And friendships that I can see myself having for a very, very, very long time. And I got a group of women that are very ambitious, that are driven to be the best people they can be, but also hold me accountable for being the best person that I can be. So yeah, I would say that that's the biggest thing I got. My favorite day of filming, I think my favorite day of filming was probably the sex scene, but not because it's a sex scene, but because it was just so, I mean, I never acted before. So imagine like your first time acting, and then now you're doing a sex scene, and it was in my room. So it was like even more. And then the craziest part about it is because so many people like wonder, did me and Rex have anything going on? Because, you know, they always see like our chemistry. And truth be told, no. I mean, we went to lunch before we did the sex scene to kind of talk and make sure that we were both comfortable, and what our limitations and stuff were like that. But for the most part, we kind of just like meshed. But I think that was the funnest part, because it was like a moment of like realization for myself as a woman. You know, we tend to not be as open and comfortable with our bodies a lot of the time. And it put me in a position to where, and not only was I in lingerie, but I was in lingerie and like in front of some of my close friends, recording myself fake having sex, you know? But I just thought it just brought a moment of like open and realness to me, that we can be fun, and that a lot of things are just over sexualized, and that we can be comfortable in our bodies, and we can feel sexy and playful. And also that's not any means for anyone to take advantage of us at any point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want to say that I've watched a lot of, any gay woman, queer woman, lesbian film show that you watch, there's typically always a sex scene. I thought that this was one of the most beautiful ones that I've seen, because the sensuality was so strong in it, and it wasn't cheesy. I think it was really well done. So kudos to you.
Just killed it with those edits, man. She killed it with the edits. Yeah, it was nice. I agree. It was well done.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Please make sure that you check out Cole Lawson. Please let everybody know, where should they be looking for your cooking, for some of your mindfulness services. Where should people find you?
So I would say the easiest way to find me is on Twitter or on Instagram at I am Cole Lawson. Again, that's EYEAMCOLELAWSON. And if you go on my Instagram, there will also be links to how you can book me for any services, and to also to my other business accounts, for my home goods and my cooking. So,
yay!
Awesome.
Great.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. And
thank you
for listening to this on our podcast version, then cool. But make sure you check out the video version on YouTube and watch us there. Like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. Do that.
Amazing.
I'm trying to think of any other wrap-ups.
And let us know what you're watching next.
Yes, let us know so we can watch it and we can talk about it on the next episode of Woman Crush Every Day. So until next time,
peace.
See ya.
Bye.
I just want the sports cool with the suicide, with the